Hello, everybody. It's been a few years since I've gone through the workbook for A Course in Miracles myself, and I had a desire to go through it again, and this time to read it online and do it together with you. So I'm going to start with the introduction. A theoretical foundation, such as the text provides, is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. Yet it is doing the exercises that will make the goal of the course possible. And that's right there, I found that out to be so true. The first time, a couple of times actually, that I did A Course in Miracles, I read through it more for the content. And later on, I tried doing it exactly like the workbook said. And it claims to be a course or an exercise in mind training. And what the course or the workbook is intended to do is to sort of reprogram your mind in a good way. And so it's important, probably even more important, to follow the instructions exactly as they're written in the workbook, more than it is to understand the content. The content will come later, but it's the actual exercises and doing them just exactly the way it says that really will begin to change your the way you perceive the world and your own life, inner life and your outer life. So it's doing the exercises that will make the goal of the course possible. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. It is the purpose of this workbook to train your mind to think along the lines the text sets forth. The exercises are very simple. They do not require a great deal of time, and it does not matter where you do them. I get to do them in Maui. They need no preparation, and the training period is 1 year. The exercises are numbered 1 to 365. Do not undertake to do more than one set of exercises a day. The workbook is divided into two main sections, the first dealing with the undoing of the way you see now, and the second with the acquisition of true perception. With the exception of the review periods, each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. This is followed by a description of the specific procedures by which the idea of the day is to be applied. And this is what I'm talking about, these specific procedures. Like when the first time I read it, I thought, okay, well, if I miss doing it, just exactly like the workbook says, that's okay. But really, you'll find it much more beneficial if you will follow as closely as you can, doing it exactly the way the workbook says. And sometimes you just can't because, time constraints and interruptions and things in your day. And if you can't, that's okay. Don't feel guilty about it. But I just want to let you know that if you will keep that in mind and try to follow it exactly as prescribed, I guarantee you'll probably get a lot more out of it than you will if you just try to read it for the content. Okay. The workbook is divided into two main sections. The first dealing with the undoing of the way you see now, and the second with the acquisition of true perception. So the first part is deconstruction, and the second part is reconstruction. With the exception of review period, periods. Each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. This is followed by a description of the specific procedures by which the idea for the day is to be applied. The purpose of the workbook is to train your mind in a systematic way to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. The exercises are planned to help you generalize the lessons so that you will understand that each of them is equally applicable to everyone and everything that you see. Transfer of training in true perception does not proceed as does transfer of training in the world. If true perception has been achieved in connection with any person, situation, or event, total transfer to everyone and everything is certain. On the other hand, one exception, held apart from true perception, makes its accomplishments anywhere impossible. And this might not make sense to you right now, but this is one idea that gets emphasized over and over in the course. And you'll see it right here in the beginning where they'll have you do some exercises, and you want to make sure that you don't rule out anything, because you need to apply these principles to everyone and everything that you see equally. The only general rule to be observed throughout then are, first, that the exercises be practiced with great specificity, as will be indicated. This will help you to generalize the ideas involved to every situation in which you find yourself, and to everyone and everything in it. Second, be sure that you do not decide for yourself that there are some people and some situations or things to which the ideas are inapplicable. This will interfere with the transfer of training. The very nature of true perception is that it has no limits. It is the opposite of the way that you see now. The overall aim of the exercises is to increase your ability to extend the ideas you will be practicing to include everything. This will require no effort on your part. The exercises themselves meet the conditions necessary for this kind of transfer. Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This does not matter. You're merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do. You're not asked to judge them at all. You are asked only to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. And believe me, if you've never read this before, there will be some things that it will challenge some of the things that you believe about yourself, about the world, maybe even perhaps about the particular religious tradition that you grew up in. But that's okay. You're asked, it says you don't even have to believe it. Just practice these exercises as they're given. Remember, only this. You do not need to believe the ideas. You don't even need to accept them. And you need not even welcome them. And sometimes you won't. Some of them you may actively resist, I guarantee. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. And whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, just use them. Nothing more than that is required. And remember, When I first started reading A Course in Miracles, I thought, I'm just going to approach this like a scientific experiment. I'm going to go through it, and if it helps me, if I find any benefit in it, I'll keep it up as long as I do. And if for some reason it's not beneficial, or it becomes a struggle or something other than just useful, I'll just let it go. And that was, oh gosh, that was years ago when I first, more than 10 years ago when I first started reading this book. And I'm still reading it. Every day I read a little, probably, maybe a few days I don't, but most every day I read first thing in the morning a little bit in A Course in Miracles. And I still find it useful. And I still find myself going through those changes in perception that it promises. So, without further ado, let's start here at the beginning. Lesson 1, Part 1. Nothing in this room, on this street, from this window, or in this place means anything. Wow. That's pretty heavy. Now, look slowly around you and practice applying this idea very specifically to what you see. Like, this table does not mean anything. This chair does not mean anything. This hand does not mean anything. This foot does not mean anything. And this pen does not mean anything. Then look farther away from your immediate area and apply the idea to a wider range. That door does not mean anything. That body does not mean anything. That lamp does not mean anything. That sign does not mean anything. That shadow does not mean anything. Notice that these statements are not arranged in any order and make no allowances for differences in the kinds of things to which they are applied. That is the purpose of the exercise. The statement should merely be applied to anything you see. As you practice the idea for the day, use it totally indiscriminately. Do not attempt to apply it to everything you see, for these exercises should not be ritualistic. Only be sure that nothing you see is specifically excluded. One thing is like another as far as the application of the idea is concerned. Each of the first 3 lessons should not be done more than twice a day, preferably morning and evening, nor should they be attempted for more than a minute or so, unless that entails a sense of hurry. A comfortable sense of leisure is essential. So you don't want to be doing it, in a rush. Let me get this out of the way. For me, I find it was always best to get up a little early if I had to be going somewhere and just do it the first thing in the day. It makes such an amazing difference if you start your day out this way. So that's lesson 1 of A Course in Miracles workbook. And I'll see you tomorrow for lesson 2. Aloha.